Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
Oh boy, Judd Zulgad. Oh boy. Vikings fans, the Vikings may have found a quarterback. Jaron Hall completes the fourth quarter comeback yesterday. What a performance by Jaron Hall.
Oh my God.
Nice job, Jaron.
I went from practice squad guy. I'm not even sure he makes the roster now. He completed the fourth quarter comeback, but man, there were some bad throws.
Inched and crawled their way past the 50-yard line.
There were some bad throws. So question off the top. When is the last time you were this excited about any one thing coming out of a first preseason game?
I'm gonna answer your question, and then I'll give you more than you bargained for. Going into the game, and you and me, we were texting with Thor yesterday, the number one JJ McCarthy fan in the world, Thor Nystrom.
Yep.
And I think we all agreed in our little pregame text thread, this is the most intrigued leading into a preseason game, a Vikings preseason game we've been in years. I was trying to think, when was the last time I was this motivated to just be glued to an entire Vikings preseason game, edge of my seat, charting every single play,
Right.
I mean, it usually coincides with a quarterback. I mean, going way back 25 years ago, the preseason debut of Randy Moss was really fun because, oh man, you're this guy who runs a 4.3 40 or whatever, 4.25 40.
Sure.
But there haven't been that many. I mean, watching Christian, anytime you have a new quarterback, Christian Ponder, Teddy Bridgewater, it was fun to watch his debut. But easily top 3 most excited I've ever been to watch a Vikings preseason game going in. And I would say, likewise, top 3 most excited I've been coming out of a Vikings preseason game for what the future could hold. Yep. And I know people are going to point to, there's a lot of people right away that, he missed CJ Ham on a rollout really badly, and then he threw the interception. And my Twitter feed was a stream of there goes any chance of JJ McCarthy starting week 1 or early in the season. And then he shook it off. And absolutely, I was making a list of just the good and the bad. And I have a big boy throws compartment of my notes from yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And at first it was here, big boy throw. Nice job stepping up and hitting Jalen Nailor in stride. Ooh, great pass to number 8 on a deep crossing route. Ooh, another deep out to number 8 on a play 20 yards down the field.
Yeah.
And by the time the game was over, I charted 8 what I would call legit big boy NFL throws from JJ McCarthy, maybe even more.
Yep.
He's sneaky fast. He moves in the pocket.
Do you think he's sneaky? The more I watch him, I'm not sure it's sneaky. I just think
he's fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I say sneaky because he's he's like a white guy with curly blonde hair.
Sure, but I mean,
I'm probably stereotyping.
But he can put the ball down and run, and he's not afraid to. And eventually, as things evolve, that probably dissipates a bit. But for now, as a kid, yeah, exactly. That's what you should do. If you don't know, I'd rather see you run, and he ran for a first down. I'd rather see him do that at the age of 21 than make a dumb pass.
Yeah.
He did a lot of things I really, really liked.
What was the number one thing? If you had to pick one thing JJ McCarthy that stood out, what was it?
Okay. I'm going to put this as eloquently as I possibly can. He's not burdened by the weight of the game. He's not burdened by what happens if I do this? He's not thinking about every throw and how it might affect his personal statistics or his OCD of trying to organize it out in his head. He makes, and I love it right now, he makes what I would consider to be no regret throws. Now,
no regrets,
and he's got the arm strength to do it. Now, does he have to learn at times that his arm is not going to, especially when he leaves his feet? That's the problem, is his arm strength goes down, not surprisingly, when he has no foundation to throw from, and he still throws. But right now, I love that. And to be honest with you, and I know this is going to be seen as a eye roller, but coming out of watching Kirk for 6 years, it's refreshing. It's refreshing to see a guy unleash it. And you don't, and you can't, like, as you watch him, going back to throw the pass, you don't feel he is thinking, I shouldn't make the throw. I shouldn't make the throw. I shouldn't make the throw.
Oh God,
He's
oh God, oh
thinking,
God, oh God. No, no, no. Yes.
he's thinking, you know what? YOLO.
And you know what?
YOLO.
The interception, it was terrible, by the way. It was a really bad interception.
Yeah.
I don't care. I love his answer in the post game, and we'll go. This can be kind of a hodgepodge of just like we're just coming out hot, slinging McCarthy takes. You've got some official Judd's camp notes from the first preseason game.
Yeah,
you were there. You were in the building for the post game stuff.
Great. Like, this is such a great story.
But he throws a really bad interception, and you're like, oh man, this guy's he's a ball of clay here. So, and we've seen a couple bad practices, so we know he can bounce back.
Right.
But he told you guys after the game was over, that interception essentially just like freed him of any nervousness or anxiousness. And then he just started playing football without worrying about the outcome. And there's, like he's 21 years old and he's playing in his first NFL action. So he's probably feeling a little bit wound up and tight. And to me, to do what he did after the interception, because what was our, not to do the comparison game here the whole time, but you got a new girlfriend. You're going to compare to the ex-girlfriend. Mm-hmm. How many games in 6 years would Kirk get punched in the mouth early or throw an interception early? And he didn't throw a ton of interceptions. And then he'd go into conservative mode a lot. I think he broke out of that under Kevin O'Connell more so the last 2 years. But
yeah.
You're going to throw interceptions. You're going to take sacks. Bad things are going to happen. You're going to fumble sometimes. You're going to be trailing. Mm-hmm. And all of those things happen. Like, the ball was on the ground at one point. They're down by 2 scores. I know it's a preseason game. He throws an interception, and he just comes out there, and he was hunting for chunks down the field. That was the thing that stood out the most to me. Is I'm making a list of big boy throws, expecting, I'd like to come away with 3 really nice NFL throws on my list in his first preseason game. Mm-hmm. Every throw, for the most part, was him hunting and looking down the field, intermediate. And one of the biggest knocks on him, his coming out of like the draft process,
right?
His mechanics made it hard sometimes to be accurate on those crossing routes that take you throwing across the field toward the sideline or the deep outs. Specifically, throwing to the left side of the field was a question.
Correct.
Well, I would argue that his two of his best throws yesterday were the deep touchdown from the right hash, by the way, across the field, 40, 45 yards down, just a drop in a bucket.
Yep.
And then he also had, there was a deep out at one point to the left, or maybe it was like a crossing route. It was one of those long developing Kevin O'Connell, the receiver is sifting his way through the middle of the field, and J.J. McCarthy hits him outside the hash marks by the numbers on the left side. It's like, okay, well, he's cleaned up. Whatever was causing him struggles throwing to the left side of the field, during the lead up to the draft, seems like he's getting that figured out in practice.
And this is a part and parcel of 2 things. One is, if you recall, at the end of minicamp or at the end of OTAs, when he said, I'm staying here to work on things. Like, he's like, vacation time is done, which I love to hear from a quarterback. Vacation time is done. And you look at all of the things, which by the way, I believe the scouting report, I believe that he did have deficiencies. But you look at him now and you're like, well, that doesn't look like a deficiency. And that's because he's being, 1, he works his ass off, and 2, he's being coached up correctly. Like, this is where the family raising the quarterback conversation and having the right people to raise you becomes so important. Now, the fact that he appears to be what I would consider to be a very quick study is great. But, like, I don't think the people that scouted him at Michigan were wrong. But I think O'Connell said, I can fix those things.
What's fixable, what's not, is what Kevin O'Connell talks about.
And the other thing that I was really impressed by yesterday is, and I know that the defenses are vanilla, but what it really impressed me is I felt what we saw yesterday was very much a reflection of exactly what we have seen in camp. So he didn't shrink, it didn't change, it didn't get to be like, oh boy, I didn't see this in training camp. All of the things that they're working on in training camp and all of the things he's done, which is, one bad day, one questionable day, and a few big boy days, carried over, I thought, exactly to a T to what we saw in the game from McCarthy. So I'm hard pressed, and yeah, there were some bad throws, but I am hard pressed to come away from that game if you are watching that film and you are Kevin O'Connell, to think that you are in anything but like encouraged. Encouraged because the most important thing is, beyond his talent, beyond anything, the most important thing is he wired to do this job? Because if you're not, it don't matter. You can have more talent. We've seen it before. But is he wired to do this job? And I would say everything that we have seen throughout camp, to me, says the wiring is correct. And I don't think you can totally change wiring. So I think you can get guys to sort of suspend belief at times and sort of change the here and there, right? But I think J.J. McCarthy's mechanics can be overhauled and worked on. But if he didn't have the brain to be, to respond after a pick, to not shrink, to say, you know what, I am going to throw a couple of very nice deep balls. And the Tristan Jackson touchdown to the left sideline was a gorgeous pass, caught in stride, by the way, at the 4. The Sherfield touchdown was a nice play.
It was more of a broken coverage,
but it was completely broken.
Yeah.
The Raiders broke down. But I thought that deep ball to Jackson was just a perfect example of, okay. And that's why, and I didn't see the game on TV, but I've seen some highlights. That's why I think Justin Jefferson was going crazy.
Yeah,
he's watching that. Can you imagine that if you're watching that?
He was on commentary on the sideline the entire third quarter, which at first I was like, oh man, that's a long time it's like a half hour, 40 minutes to carry a guy. He was awesome. He was entertaining. At one point, Kevin O'Connell kind of walked up and didn't know he was live, and he's like, oh, okay. I was wondering why you were standing by yourself, just having a good time down here. Now I get it. But even on the broken coverage one, how many young quarterbacks where the bullets are flying on TV? Oh, wide open guy, broken coverage, but your head is too busy trying to figure out what's happening right in front of me with the offensive line and the pass rushers and going through your progression. So to spot Sherfield at the exact moment that Justin Jefferson did watching from the sideline, I wouldn't underrate that. Also, both of those touchdown passes came right after a 3rd and a 4th down conversion. So going back to my big boy throws list here, 3rd down tight window completion to Nick Muse with a linebacker pretty much draped on him, and he had maybe a step on a linebacker, and it was
but he got hit
right in a perfect window.
He got hit, yeah.
Next play, deep touchdown to Tristan Jackson. And then they went for it on that 4th and 2 or whatever it was, like a 4th and 3 from midfield. And he hits Jackson on a 4th down completion to keep that drive alive. And then boom, broken coverage on the next one. Chase Daniel, by the way, now he does the podcast now. I can't remember what it's called. Oh, it's called The Scoop. That's right. They stole the name from Doogie.
Diana Rossini.
With Diana Rossini, a former longtime backup quarterback. And he tweeted out, J.J. McCarthy may have had the best rookie quarterback debut. Excited for this breakdown. And he was lauding J.J. McCarthy up and down yesterday. So, yeah,
and go back to the so McCarthy throws the pick, which was against the Raiders' first team defense. And by the way, although guys might get hurt and will sing a different tune, it was nice to see starters play, a lot of them. And I thought the Vikings did a perfect job. Jefferson, Harrison Smith, take the day off, right? Like Jefferson does not need to play, but they did get Darnold work, and his drive, which we could talk about, was impressive as well with the first team. But if you go back then, so the second possession, second quarter, McCarthy at quarterback, it is 2nd and 6 at the Vikings 28, and here's this name again. He makes a 24-yard pass to Tristan Jackson, who had a marvelous day. And that sets up on the very next play, the Wongwu 48-yard touchdown run.
Think about that. His handoff form is so impeccable.
Yep.
Kene Wongwu, who hasn't done anything with outside of special teams since he's been with the Vikings,
he's got some speed.
Breaks loose for 40 yards or whatever it was.
But, that 24-yard pass was a nice pass, too. So, yeah, there were just a lot of throws. I love the arm. The arm's legit. Like, the arm is legit. There's nothing fluky about this kid's arm.
Yeah. So, okay, let's do the Darnold drive here too, and we can get back to McCarthy, and you were in the post game, but I think Darnold's drive was, it stalled out in the red zone once they got inside the 10-yard line. It kind of went sideways.
And they went for it where you ordinarily probably kick a field goal, but yeah.
Yeah, if it's, I don't know. I feel like it was like a 4th and 2 or 4th. They might have gone for it in the regular season.
At the 4, they might have first drive. I don't know, but like I didn't hold that against him. Like, oh well, you see that Sam Darnold.
And there was a couple. I feel like who dropped that? Was it Ty Chandler? Ty Chandler dropped that. Should have been a touchdown.
The first drive, Ty Chandler was like making a case for why I sounded like a moron for wanting him to play more. He did not. That first drive, the second drive, he was better. The first, he was not good.
Wangwu got blown up on a blitz protection at one point too.
He's a little guy. I mean, yeah.
If you're
counting on him to block really well, you might be in trouble.
But I was about 4 plays into that opening drive. I was ready to carve some new names on the greatest quarterback wide receiver combos list. Montana to Rice, Peyton Manning to Marvin Harrison, Brady to Gronk, and Darnold to Jalen Nailor was about to be carved into a bust. Jalen Nailor, credit to that guy. He all throughout training camp, he's been healthy, obviously, which is the biggest difference.
Right.
But he's out there with the first team offense. Justin Jefferson's not out there, so here's an opportunity.
Yep.
And just a couple huge chunk plays before that drive failed in the red zone.
He's the third guy, right?
Yeah, unquestionably at this point, right?
Yes.
Has to be.
Yes. The only curveball that I felt was legitimately thrown, and I went back and looked at my Judd's 53-man roster 2.0, and I did have Tristan Jackson making the team, but I did not foresee a 4-catch all from JJ 100-yard, 45-yard touchdown day. Like he had a great day and looked great, but I think my last projection on the 53 was the 6 receivers, which is what they kept last year. And I would say there's no changes, but if anything, Nailor has now established himself as the unquestioned 3, which allows Powell to be the 4 or 5, which is absolutely fine.
Yep. Yeah. So Tristan Jackson, by the way, interesting player because he's pretty old, like by just the standard of having not gained a bunch of NFL experience. In fact, I guess he has 2 career catches. He got into a couple games last year, but he's like 26, going to turn 27 years old right after the season's over. So this is probably one of his last real chances to make an NFL team and stick.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, if you're sorting out that wide receiver room right now, you think they're keeping 6, you said?
They kept 6 a year ago. So I always go by if it's the same coach, what he did the previous year.
So Jefferson, Addison, Nailor, Powell, lock. I think Tristan Jackson's a lock at this point.
Yeah, and Sherfield.
Those are
because I think 6. Sherfield's more of a special teams guy, blocking guy. Mm-hmm. I think the thing about, unless somebody just knocks their socks off, they signed Sherfield not because he's got this great potential, but because they know what he can do. But he could easily just be a bottom of the depth chart guy at receiver.
Yeah. So on Darnold, just back to him for a second. I thought he looked good. I know it's one drive, it's preseason, and you're facing a number 1 defense, but they're not really scheming to stop you. But man, he was again hunting down the field. Kevin O'Connell, starting with Kirk in year 1 back in 2022.
Yep.
Hunt for the big play down the field. Don't just settle for someone flashing open underneath. Like, we're looking for 12, 15, 20, 40-yard chunks here. And that has clearly been engraved in the heads of both Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy. But yeah, he looked, if you would have just, stopped the game after J.J. McCarthy's first drive and said, okay, you saw a couple minutes of both these guys, I would have said, yeah, Sam Darnold, let's see what he looks like in this offense. I think after watching McCarthy do what he did in the late second quarter, early third quarter, I think the door is still open for McCarthy to start in week 1.
Here's what's okay. So let's examine that, because I told you in an election year, I started the polling process last week and have declared certain cities to be Darnold has won them. Here's the thing that I've begun to think about, though, as I'm watching McCarthy spin the ball, and this has nothing to do with Darnold losing the job, okay? If he picks up on things and learns this quick, Like, what is the expectation? Like, everything, again, I don't think scouting reports were wrong. I think he had weaknesses to his left. I think J.J. McCarthy had legitimate, these were not made up weaknesses. But he seems to be overcoming them quickly. Now, regular season game, defensive scheme for you, things get a little bit more difficult. You are going to have...
But you get Justin Jefferson, though, in your stable.
And you're going to have to think quicker, but, your talent is your talent. Like, so I do think that this is... McCarthy's going to give... It feels to me like McCarthy is going to give them something to think about. I don't think he starts week one, as we have both talked about. That is fine. I don't need him to. But, it's interesting. He is clearly, and he's a nice kid, but he's doing what he should do, which is he's clearly competing. Like, I don't think that he sees it like we do, which is, redshirt year possibly, JJ. You see what he's doing on the field every day. And, in practice, there have been a lot of times he's going against the first defense. So it's not always twos versus twos. He is with the second team offense, but that makes it more of a challenge.
Your twos versus the Vikings ones frequently in practice.
This is everything that you could possibly want to see. I think this is just absolutely right now best case.
Yeah. So what did you learn in the post game press conferences? Kevin O'Connell, J.J. McCarthy was down there. Let's put a bow on the quarterback conversation. Sure. We can get to the rest of it.
Sure, and you won't be surprised. The head coach wasn't asked about Sammy a ton, but he's just sort of there.
Sam did well, man.
He did, and I think he is. Look, you know what? I don't think there's any real shocking things here. He has arm talent, right? He is going to be with a staff that actually knows what they're doing, which, as we have discussed now a lot, we probably undersold for a long time. Like, we probably were in the group of, well, this quarterback doesn't get it, he stinks. Well, yeah, it's up to the QB too, but the infrastructure here is really good for a quarterback. So O'Connell did a very good job, I thought, of walking the fine line of, you could tell he was thrilled by what McCarthy did, but there's a lot to clean up, blah, blah, blah. I did find it interesting that in exchange that I had with him, I said, because I'm trying to get at, like, how many things is McCarthy checking off the list, the checks that Kevin has talked about before. I think he talked about it with, I think Albert Breer was the last one to write.
Do we know how many things are on the list?
Well, I asked that question. I said, "What's this list like? How long is this list? Like, what is it like?" And ultimately, I said, what's more important? Like, do you weigh it all the same? Joint practices within the team, games, or is a game like this more important because it's just a game? Like, you're in front of the fans. There's no controlling it. As Kevin said, the coaches are on the sideline. They can't come help you, okay? Mm-hmm. And he said, well, there is no list. I said, what? He said, there is no list. He said, it goes deeper than that. There's a lot more that goes into it. And I said, I thought there was a list. I went curbed. I thought there was a list. He's like, no, there's no list. He's like, if you see the list, I'd like to see it, which leads me to believe that I should take a list to him tomorrow to say, here's your list now.
I found it. It was in the parking lot. You got to be careful just leaving that list around, Kevin.
What I got concerned was, he took his coaching pants home. The list was in his pocket. It got thrown in the wash. It goes through the wash.
Oh.
And now it's all smudged and he can't see the list anymore. And so he's, but that was my question. Like, what do you, and he wasn't going to answer it, and it was actually a fun exchange. I like the guy. It's funny. But at the end of the day, like, your question is what I was thinking, which is like, how much do you have to check off? Because my contention is, if there are check marks, let's say that I think JJ McCarthy is competing with that far more than he is like Sam Darnold. I don't think this is look better than Darnold and you start. I think this is accomplish what we have set out for you, and now you got a chance to start.
I agree, because if not to dump on Sam Darnold, who I do think is in the best situation of his career, if the bar to become a starting quarterback in the NFL is, well, you just have to clear Sam Darnold. Well, that doesn't mean you're going to be a successful starting quarterback in the NFL,
right?
Because we've seen his career for the last few years,
right?
Yeah. I think checkpoint is another way that I've seen it been phrased, that if he hits, or benchmarks.
He knew what I was talking about. He just wasn't going to answer the question. But yes, but it's a fair question in the sense that benchmarks, checkpoints, like how much would he have to? Is this like 4 things? Is it 40 things? And I'm just curious, but I would say that we would both agree on this. This situation right now is being handled about as well as you can handle it from a coaching standpoint. And having seen guys mishandled at that position previously, it's very refreshing.
Yeah, a couple last thoughts on this. And I love that you're in there just poking in a fun way, Kevin O'Connell. You guys have this sort of odd couple relationship now. He respects the sports dad.
It's like Herb. It's like Herb.
You're Larry David.
I'm Larry.
And he's, I don't know, he's
the waiter.
He's the soup Nazi in Seinfeld or something.
The waiter.
Like, no soup for you.
There's
no
been a
checklist for
in
you.
The kitchen.
Yeah.
What type of disturbance, Kevin? Just a disturbance.
Okay, couple final quarterback thoughts from me. I'm going to put a pin in the second one here because I don't want to forget it. But the first one is Vikings fans have been, I think, preconditioned for probably the better part of 2 decades, for sure, going back to Tavares Jackson and Christian Ponder, that there's a really, really, really good chance that any quarterback that you decide to draft in the first round or second round and bring into this franchise is just going to break your heart and turn into a dumpster fire and be a bust and be out of the league. And then you're going to look at the other quarterbacks that you could have drafted and you're going to wish that, man, instead of taking this guy, we could have had this guy over here, right? And so I think a lot of Vikings fans come into this process with, as we found out just with our interaction with fans leading up to the draft, with a defeatist mindset. But if you look around the NFL, it's certainly not a 100% hit rate. It might not even be a 50% hit rate, but a lot of teams are hitting on gems at quarterback. CJ Stroud with Houston, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. And it seems to me that a lot of Vikings fans won't let themselves even believe or think that type of quarterback prosperity is possible for them. But this might be it right here. We might be watching. At some point, the Vikings are due to not have a Christian Ponder, to not have a Teddy Bridgewater's leg blow up. At some point, the Vikings are due to have what the Packers have had, which is Brett Favre falls into their laps, and then Aaron Rodgers falls down into their laps, and then Jordan Love is also just magically a great quarterback.
Right.
Like it's going to happen at some point. You're going to get a 10-year awesome NFL starting quarterback at some point.
Yep. This
may be it. We may be watching the beginning of the J.J. McCarthy era here, not the Christian Ponder, Tavares Jackson, Teddy Bridgewater stuff.
Right.
Like this might be it right here.
It's also competence. Like, Dante Culpepper, for his faults, had an MVP type of year when the infrastructure was right. In 2005, it fell apart. And in 2004, he had an OC who was great. But in 99, Dante was drafted by a guy that understood offense, Denny Green, right? Like, go through the check marks of, so like if you're going to get a quarterback who's going to be successful, that's going to start with more than just, hey, we drafted the right guy, unless you get the first pick and take an obvious guy. But saying that, the Vikings don't usually get the first pick. In fact, they never do because they're always too good. So the reality is, Brad Childress was sold as a quarterback whisperer, but was not. He was a good personnel guy overall, but he was not some type of magical quarterback whisperer. He thought Tavares Jackson would be great. Unfortunately, Tavares was probably not developed right, had a great arm, but also had flaws. Then you go to Les Frazier, who was a defensive guy, and Ponder's drafted by Spielman, who has admitted on Sirius NFL Network radio that one of the reasons why he's on there is because he couldn't find a quarterback. Mm-hmm. Bridgewater was drafted by Norv Turner, really, who then quit in a huff, and then tragically, in some ways, his career basically was derailed. But I'm saying, if you go back, Phil, through the 2000s and look at, why have the Vikings not found a franchise quarterback? It can be explained. Like, it's not some just dumb luck, fluky, man, they've tried. Teddy broke his leg. In 2005, they were so cheap that they took all the infrastructure that Dante had away, and then he got hurt. Childress was, the Wilfs at the time thought Childress was O'Connell. Like, they thought, we're getting Andy Reid's quarterback whisperer, the guy that helped McNabb. Oh my God, this is going to be great.
Well, and I, me, I'm a big Chili defender. When Childress took over in 2006, and okay, he's going to bring in his guy Tavares Jackson, second rounder, and go from there.
Yep.
They had traded Randy Moss a year and a half earlier. Their weapons. Okay, what's the infrastructure around the young quarterback? Good offensive line, and then they had a good running game because you had Chester Taylor and Adrian Peterson.
Right.
But his wide receivers were like Bobby Wade, and they did bring in Berrien in 2008, but he was like a number 3 receiver on a really good team that just happened to be the best one in free agency.
Right.
And when you gave Brad Childress an actual roster of Percy Harvin and Brett Favre and Sidney Rice comes in as a second-round pick, like, okay, he had flaws as a coach, but even he was able to take that thing to the doorstep of a Super Bowl.
Right.
Infrastructure matters a lot.
Absolutely. I just think that Brad never had the ability to raise a quarterback like what O'Connell. I mean, O'Connell's, if you did a pie chart of why was Kevin O'Connell hired? A huge part of that pie chart is this. Huge part. Mm-hmm. And look, this has evolved too. At one time in the 90s, if you had Steve Young, awesome, right? But the reality is, if you go back and look at the quarterbacks who were in Super Bowls back then, it's like we got a meat and potatoes guy. So like it's such a different era. It's such a different time. And I think you can very much justify saying a large part of the reason why we hired our head coach is we think he's going to be great finding a quarterback. So like the Vikings, I think, are upping their ability to appear to be fortunate with their quarterback by doing a lot of smart things.
Yeah. And I still believe there were multiple correct answers on the test in this first round. There was a lot of talent. Yes. I think Drake May for this team, Drake May might have been the incorrect answer on the test for the Patriots because they don't have the infrastructure.
Right.
I think Drake May would have been a correct answer on the test. Mm-hmm. I think Michael Penix might have been a correct answer on the test. And he had a couple nice throws in his preseason debut.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The other quarterback thing I just wanted to throw out was a lot of fear mongering between like January and March. Be careful what you wish for. Be careful saying goodbye to number 8, right?
Yeah.
And I would just pose this question for anyone that was a fear monger or for anyone that was on the fence. Right now, today, we're recording this on Sunday, August 11th, 2024.
Yep.
If I could give you a chance right now, today, you can either keep J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold and go forward the rest of this year and beyond with J.J., or you can call a mulligan and give Kirk Cousins $180 million over 4 years, 2 of those years guaranteed.
Yep.
You want to go back? You want to go back to old Kirky boy at this point? I was told the franchise was going to crumble on March 15th or whatever the date was, 2024. That's what I was told.
The Jefferson thing was absolutely the best. I mean, he might walk. You don't know. He wants a new he's not going to sign that contract until he knows Kirk's back.
Yeah, cue the video of him jumping for joy on the sideline
because
in a preseason game.
Because JJ's throwing the ball unencumbered by the concern of what it might do. So, yeah, it's just, look, I do believe that in Kevin O'Connell's perfect world last March, Kirk comes back. I think he was comfortable with Kirk. I think he felt that he was getting the most out of Kirk, sort of the towel. You're trying to wring that sucker. I think he thought that he had turned Kirk into enough of a risk taker for his taste. And Kirk did a lot of things well. But I mean, this comes down to one thing. It's contracts, right? Like if JJ McCarthy hits, go on over the cap now and look at that contract.
Oh, it's glorious.
Because you're going to have, like, it is the difference, in my opinion, between 90 and humid and 76 and dry. That contract.
I'm going to pull this up just to put this into context.
Breath of fresh air contract is what that is.
Yep. The highest paid, let me see here. Let's go over the cap. So the highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL right now are making $55 million average annual value. That's going to continue to go up over the duration of McCarthy's contract.
As the cap does too. So yes, but yes.
Yep. But by the end of his contract, at least the first 4 years, if he's good, they'll exercise the 5th-year option.
Yep.
Quarterbacks are going to be making $65 million average annual value.
Yes.
Here are his cap hits the next 4 years. 3.9 million, 4.9 million, 5.9 million, 6.9 million. So while Jordan Love will be making, again, $55 million average annual value, the other quarterbacks that come up, Joe Burrow is making 55 average annual right now, right? The other quarterbacks that come up for free agency are going to be making $60 plus million AAV. And J.J. McCarthy will be making $5.9 million to the cap, $6.9 million to the cap. 2% of the cap devoted to, again, if he pans out, your window opens in 2025 and it is wide open. You've got cap space. You've got first-round picks.
Yep.
So, again, first preseason game. Just one preseason game.
Well, yeah, but so I hate to get because I'm the guy that loves to take the proverbial glass of cold water and dump it on stuff. But it's not just the first preseason game; it's what we're seeing in practices too.
Yeah.
So it's getting to be a body of work. Like if he was awful in practice, and Kyle slaughtered it yesterday, right? Which, by the way, that was Slaughter. His MO was, God, he's bad in practice. Oh my God, he just threw for 400 yards in a preseason game. I would say, okay, let's pump the brakes here. Let's see way more. But we're seeing the maturation and progression. And this is where the bad days are instructive.
Yes.
Because or the pick is instructive. You come back and lead a touchdown drive.
100%. By the way, I updated my list of greatest Vikings quarterback in franchise history after yesterday. So Fran Tarkenton's still number 1.
Yep.
2009 Brett Favre number 2. Dante Culpepper number 3.
Okay. I'm
putting preseason J.J. McCarthy as the 4th best quarterback in Vikings history right now. Just ahead of 1998 Randall Cunningham. Preseason pre-red zone Sam Darnold comes in at number 6.
Pre-red
really
zone.
Impressed. Noon game Kirk Cousins 7.
Mm-hmm.
2-minute Tommy Kramer 8. Josh Dobbs before he knew the playbook 9. Yep. And then a preseason Kyle Slaughter rounds it out.
Did you see the Josh Dobbs scramble for a touchdown with San Francisco yesterday?
I missed it.
Oh, he took off, just got helicoptered and scored. Elway, man, bang!
It's classic, man. Hey, before we get into, we can kind of rapid fire through some non-quarterback stuff and plenty more on Purple Daily this week. Obviously, let's talk about the party at Padres here. So on Wednesday, there it is. Judd's got the Padres shirt on here. On Wednesday, we're hanging out with Purple Daily listeners, and we're going to do a live podcast recording, kind of just a low key. We can continue recapping preseason and answer your questions, but it'll be the party at Padres Brewing in Minneapolis, Wednesday, August 14th for a happy hour event. scorenorth.com/party to get your free tickets. You have to register. It's a free event. You must be 21. We just need a head count. scorenorth.com/party, Judd.
And a gorgeous glass too. That free pint glass. I believe you also get one free beer. My personal suggestion is the red, but there's a lot of great beers. Irish themed, they go to Ireland to get their ingredients. It's awesome. So their red beer is great, and the pint glass is a Score North/Padres pint glass as well, which is really cool. So yeah, join us. It's going to be fun, and I have a feeling there will be plenty to talk about on the podcast we're going to do Wednesday.
Yeah, I think there might only be 20 spots left right now. So scorenorth.com/party. scorenorth.com/party if you want to swoop up the last couple handfuls of tickets. Let's go rapid fire here. Just other observations from the game that you picked up on non-quarterback related.
Absolutely. Let me call up my notes here.
Dallas Turner, by the way.
Yep.
Dallas Turner, man.
Yep. I was actually going to go, you know what? Let's go defense, because we've been talking about quarterbacks and offense the whole show. Dallas Turner, a sack to end the Raiders' first drive on 3rd and 3, 13-yard loss. He played, I think he played into the second series.
Mm-hmm.
I love the motor.
2 plays before that sack, he also blew up the left tackle and had a pressure.
But it's so interesting to me to watch this. So Grenard didn't play because he is banged up. He's okay, I think, but like Aaron Jones, Grenard, Van Ginkel didn't play because they're nursing things. In Van Ginkel's case, they're bringing him along slowly off the foot injury he suffered at the end of last season with the Dolphins. But Dallas Turner, so it's a little bit hard in practice, I would say, to necessarily flash. You can't hit the quarterback. You're trying not to hit guys. But, I felt that what we saw yesterday from Turner really strengthened my opinion. He's going to have an impact.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I love is, and this is the beginning of the changes. The stew is changing. The Flores' desire to have edge guys who are fast. So like you don't look at Turner and say, okay, yeah, classic Vikings edge rusher, right? Because he's strong as hell, but he's not built. Nonetheless, I was really impressed, and I think that speed, watching him live in action against an opponent, seeing the speed around the edge, he's going to cause problems.
Yeah. That was really impressive. You're right. It's so hard with the edge rushers because you see them at practice and it's like being told you can only go 75 or 80%, and then you have to stop before you actually make an impact. I mean, there's that play from the first week of practice where Darnold hits a 45-yard completion during the 2-minute drill, and Gabriel Murphy, who's been banged up and didn't play yesterday.
Yep.
Well, he would have blown that play wide open. He would have put his shoulder pad in the rib cage of Sam Darnold, but they don't get to finish those plays in practice.
Yep.
My guy Bo Richter also flashed on the edge a couple times. He had a TFL. He had a sack. And you heard about Bo Richter here on Purple Daily, Phil's camp notes.
Early. Not
even his family knew that he was this good at football. You
No,
heard it
like,
here on Purple Daily first.
Why do we have to watch Phil Mackey to find out that you're really good? Yeah, he had what? I think he originally had 2 sacks, and then they took one away because it was deemed to be a rush by the quarterback.
Yep.
But yes, the two guys that I saw with a motor yesterday, Bo Richter, Levi Drake Rodriguez again,
Dude,
man.
LDR. Let's go.
This is interesting. Like, I'm intrigued now. I'm really intrigued. He doesn't stop, and he is a menace.
And then that position group, wide open.
It's
not like you're trying to be the number 2 receiver on this team. Well, those 2 jobs are taken. Or you're trying to break through in the safety pecking order. Well, there's like 4 or 5 guaranteed jobs. I would say there's 1 guaranteed job on the defensive front right now, and it's Harrison Phillips.
I think Bullard as well. They like him a lot. I'd say it's 2.
But he's not like...
I know what you think.
He's kind of a jag. Like, he's not great.
I know, but I think they like him a lot. I think they like him a lot and see him as a veteran stability guy. But yes, I agree. I'm not sold. But I mean, Levi Drake Rodriguez brings an attitude. He brings an edge. Bo Richter might do the exact same thing. Yeah. Well, I mean, he's not going to stop. He's at your feet. He is again, he's a menace. He's always after you, and he's never stopping, and he's constantly going. And in football, that might sound silly, but that's, to me, one of the most important things a defensive lineman can do, unless you're Aaron Donald and you're just so gifted that it doesn't matter.
You know what Levi Drake Rodriguez does, Judd? He plays through the echo of the whistle.
Football.
Yep. And then the echo of the whistle, and he's still going.
He is.
He's still going. So he impressed me. Thought it was interesting that Lewis Seen was with the second team a little bit more than I thought.
A little showcase.
I think they're trying to get, Now, unfortunately, there was a play along the sideline on which he could have blasted a guy, which Bobby McCain did. Bobby McCain sent a Raiders tight end into next year, but Lewis Seen didn't. I don't know what's up with this guy. He came here known as a guy that loved to hit and I just don't know. He's not going to make the team, in my opinion.
That's the thing. He's not getting run with the 2s in practice, and they put him out there early with the 2s in the game.
Yeah,
that's a classic.
But then he didn't do anything to be like, oh, he flashed. Oh, hey, I don't know, take your pick. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No, they're fine. They've got Antoine Jr. But some team that would take him for like a 7th round pick. So Theo Jackson played early. There was a touchdown on which there was confusion, and immediately I got tweets saying, why is Judd's camp notes sung his praises? He sucks. He doesn't suck. It'll be fine. I did see a nickel package with the safeties where Josh Metellus was playing the ordinary inside corner role. But this gets back to a conversation that we could definitely have to wrap up this show, which is the reports that Stephon Gilmore is coming in on Monday for a visit.
Yeah.
Which could mean that Stephon Gilmore will be a starting boundary corner very, very soon.
This would make sense too if you're Stephon Gilmore and you've been in the league for a long time. You're not going to show up for like the first week of August training camp.
And you're waiting for calls.
Yeah,
let
this thing play out. So yeah, I mean, a couple things, and we can go deeper on some of this Monday and Tuesday. But Andrew Booth Jr. traded away.
Yep.
You did a video for Score on our social media. Just kind of a classic change of scenery trade. Andrew Booth Jr. second round bust to the Cowboys. Is it Nashawn Wright, cornerback from?
Both were very close. I'm not quite sure, but
from Dallas. He was a third round pick, the 100th overall pick the year before Booth. But what's interesting about Wright, he's one of the tallest cornerbacks in the NFL. Big, lanky, 6'4".
Yeah.
Outside cornerback.
Yeah.
Does that? I'm not saying he's going to jump in and start. I mean, if Stephon Gilmore is coming to town, then this dude might not even make the roster. But just interesting that they bring in one of the tallest cornerbacks to potentially work into Brian Flores' system here.
And it sounds like he was drafted largely on the recommendation of now Washington head coach and then Dallas DC Dan Quinn.
Yeah.
And I would say if the guy that drafted you couldn't maximize you, you're probably a special teams guy, if that. Look, Booth was gone regardless, and it would have been my preference to get a draft pick, but perhaps they couldn't. So there is a fighting chance in 6 weeks. Both Booth and Wright are not on their teams. But
so real quick on the cornerback depth chart, if they bring in, if they sign Gilmore Monday, and Shaq Griffin comes back, now you got a couple veteran guys on 1-year deals that used to be awesome. Stephon Gilmore, PFF still likes him quite a bit.
Yep.
But you might have kind of 1-year stopgap Gilmore, 1-year stopgap Shaq Griffin, and then Byron Murphy as your 3 main cornerbacks in the nickel.
Yep.
And then it kind of depends on what they do with like veteran Fabian Moreau, Nashawn Wright. Caleb Evans is still flirting with a starting job.
And he'll make the team.
Jay Ward, Dwight McLaughlin.
I think Moreau makes the team as well. But look, there's 2 positions here defensively that I think are very much TBD 2025, right? Defensive line and corner.
Mm-hmm.
So like nobody is expecting the Vikings to want to suck. So like the Gilmore signing would make perfect sense. Like this is a transitional year at quarterback. But even I, Mr. Tank, don't see this as hey, can you tank year? It's not. You got too much talent, and so I think going to get Gilmore, if nothing else, for Brian Flores' sake. Like, he wants to have a good defense, and he's shown he can with guys he didn't even pick. So I think that this would be a very solid move, and I fully expect that the cornerback room after this season, and Byron Murphy Jr. is a free agent, is going to be turned upside down, which it should be. That's fine.
And then the only other thing there's a couple things. I would say we already gave some love to Kene Wangu. Just that's the most dynamic he's looked offensively outside of special teams since he came to the Vikings. But we should give some love to, depending on what you think of his nickname, the Vikings are calling him Walk-Off Will.
Yep.
We've been calling him Big Leg Bill.
Yeah, that's you. Yeah, you came up with that.
A listener said if you want to complete the alliteration, we can call him Big Boot Bill, Triple B. But Will Reichard with the game-winning dagger to give Kevin O'Connell his first ever preseason win.
Yeah, Walk-Off Will is, to me, it's cool for that game, but that's fleeting. Big Leg Bill is constant.
Because Big Leg Bill could show up in the second quarter, third quarter.
Got to be honest, Sports Dad, very disappointed that Jaron Hall got the drive that deep. I wanted a 56-yard attempt. Like, I'm there, like, and Hall stunk at times. So I'm like, I hope he fails, because, I mean, who cares? I hope he fails so that I can see Big Leg Bill attempt that 63-yarder. Like, I wanted that. I was disappointed that in Reichard's world, he won it with what is a chip shot to him.
Yeah, it was like a 38-yarder or something?
Yeah, but I wanted the long-distance field goal in front of the fans, the pressure up.
Yeah.
And I will say this, despite my pleas, I think the punting competition is coming to an end. Ryan Wright he outkicked his coverage a couple times. He's got to be careful there. Like, it was a problem, but Seth Vernon had 2 punts, and the first one was abysmal.
Yeah.
So, and Ryan Wright is holding. I think this is. Do I think there was sort of a
They might do it
competition?
this week.
Yeah, and I do think that there was a competition of sorts, but I think we are close to calling that too.
Is there a chance that that's the easy roster spot for Stephon Gilmore? Seth Vernon?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you really need to keep a backup punter around for the? They had him for the first couple weeks in the entire OTA minicamp.
And the backup kicker went for a cornerback, right? Didn't they sign? Because they brought in now.
Yes.
Phil, it's 5 corners since training camp started.
Yeah, they have. I mean, they literally have. There's probably. I mean, Duke Shelley is old news now. It's crazy.
Yeah, he was playing in the slot with. He had. Well, your theory is probably right. The guy, Wright, that they got from Dallas was purely traded for it because of his size. God bless him. I don't think Duke Shelley has any shot because of his size.
He won't make the team, unfortunately.
And it's not that he's bad. He just has. He does not. He was brought in, I think, as the Vikings were hyperventilating about we got to get some corners in here.
Yep. So there we go. That's the recap. Judd's camp notes recapping the Vikings' first preseason game and the day that J.J. McCarthy started his decade-plus long journey.
Who presents
as the Vikings franchise quarterback?
O'Connell?
I mean, O'Connell, Jim Harbaugh, definitely Jim Harbaugh had a say in some of this development.
Show cause. I'll show you cause.
Justin Jefferson, because those careers are going to now align for the next 8 to 10 years.
Tristan Jackson.
Tristan Jackson
they
could
might
be a good
best
option.
Friends for all we know.
Yeah, maybe Nick Muse, safety blanket on that third down.
He's got the team made too.
So we'll be back Monday. Are we doing a 53 on Monday? Or are we doing that? What do you think? Because we got the night practice to recap on Tuesday. It's your call. Why don't you think on it? At some point this week, we'll get you an updated 53-man roster projection.
Sure.
We should probably wait till Stephon Gilmore makes a decision, but so many fun things percolating.
Yeah, you know what?
Here.
They have the night practice on Monday that we can recap on Tuesday. Then they go to Cleveland, which unfortunately Sportsdad is not going. So I wonder if we do it middle of the week when they're in Cleveland.
Yeah, let's.
Because there won't be camp notes. I mean, we'll get some notes from Cleveland.
Yeah,
but they won't be the copyright Judd's camp notes.
We'll put our heads together.
So we can do a 53 then.
Okay. He's the sports dad. I'm Phil Mackey, and this is Purple Daily Vikings Entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we